There's a black man breaking into a car. That's what Diane Morton told 911. The car belonged to him, and he recorded every word she said. Cameron Price is a civil rights attorney who specializes in one thing: false police reports. For 11 months, he'd been documenting incidents exactly like this one, building cases, creating precedents, waiting for the perfect example. Diane gave it to him, on camera, with witnesses, in front of police. This is how 4 minutes of video destroyed a career. How 16 previous complaints became a pattern. And how the son of the police chief used the law's most powerful weapon, documentation, to fight back. Subscribe if you want to see how silence defeats discrimination, because this story proves that sometimes the loudest statement is the one you never make. Now let's go back to where this all started. Tuesday afternoon, May 16th, Riverside Medical Center, 2:47 p.m. Riverside Medical Center, parking space E47. Cameron Price stepped out of his Mercedes. He'd been volunteering here for 18 months, teaching legal literacy classes to patients transitioning from homelessness. Nothing about this Tuesday felt different, until Diane Morton saw him. Diane was the hospital's HR director, 42 years old, 8 years at the institution. Salary, $186,000 annually, and the moment she saw Cameron step out of that Mercedes, something snapped. A black man, mid-30s, well-dressed, expensive car, executive parking section. She didn't hesitate. Whose car is that? Cameron looked up, pulled out his phone, hit record, said nothing. The red dot blinked in the corner of his screen. Timestamp 2:47:23. She didn't notice. I'm talking to you. Did you steal that vehicle? Still nothing. Cameron adjusted the phone angle, making sure the frame caught her face, her hospital ID badge, her expression. Diane's voice rose. You can't just ignore me. I work here. This is private property. If you don't identify yourself right now, I'm calling security. Cameron remained motionless, phone steady, expression unchanged, the kind of calm that comes from experience, from knowing exactly what you're doing and why. Diane pulled out her own phone, but she didn't call security. She called 911, and that's when everything changed, because 3 people were recording now. She knew about 2 of them. 911, I need police at Riverside Medical. A man is breaking into a car. Can you describe him? Diane glanced at Cameron. He adjusted the phone angle, making sure the frame caught her badge clearly. Black male, 30s, refusing to identify himself. Is he threatening you? He won't talk. That's threatening. Cameron lowered the phone slightly. The 911 timestamp now visible on his screen, 2:51:14. 3 devices recording, hers, his, and one she didn't know about. He'd been waiting for this moment for 11 months, 2:53 p.m. Security guard Victor Chen got the radio call. He knew Cameron Price. Everyone in security did. Cameron volunteered here twice a month, had his own security clearance badge, his fingerprints in the system. But when Victor arrived, he said nothing, just asked for registration, professional protocol. Let it play out. Is there a problem here? Diane whirled around. This man refuses to show ID for this vehicle. I've called the police. Victor glanced at Cameron. Their eyes met for just a fraction of a second. Recognition passed between them. Sir, can I see your vehicle registration? Cameron finally moved, reached into his car through the open window, retrieved a document from the glove compartment, handed it to Victor without a word. Victor examined it. Registration clearly stated, Cameron D. Price, 847 Riverside Boulevard, Unit 12. Vehicle 2023 Mercedes-Benz C-Class, silver. License plate matched perfectly. Victor handed it back. Registration is valid, ma'am. Everything checks out. Diane stared at the paper. Her hands trembled slightly. For 5 seconds, doubt crossed her face. She'd made a mistake. She knew it. Then she looked at Cameron again, at his expensive watch, his pressed shirt, his calm expression, and the doubt vanished. This could be stolen documents. I want police verification. Cameron's jaw tightened, just barely. The first crack in his composure, because he'd seen this before. The momentary doubt, then the doubling down. It was always the doubling down that destroyed them. 2:56 p.m. Dr. Linda Park exited the building, saw Cameron, saw Diane, understood immediately, pulled out her phone, started recording. Cameron, what's happening? Diane whirled around. Do you know this man? He's an attorney. He volunteers here. Why are you harassing him? Diane's face flushed. I'm protecting hospital property. He wouldn't identify himself. You're profiling him. I never said anything about race. You didn't have to. By 2:59 p.m., 4 people were recording. A nurse named Patricia Williams had stopped walking to her car, pulled out her phone, then another staff member, then another. 4 cameras, 4 angles, all time-stamped, all capturing Diane's growing panic as she realized this wasn't playing out the way she'd expected. At 3:01 p.m., a patrol car turned into the parking lot, lights flashing but no siren. Officer Blake Wilson stepped out of his vehicle, his body cam activated automatically. Recording everything from his perspective, he looked toward the small crowd, saw the man at the center of it, and his expression changed completely. Victor had seen Cameron do this before, but never with this many cameras. Diane rushed toward Officer Wilson. "Officer, finally!" Wilson stopped walking, stared at Cameron. His hand moved to his radio, not his weapon. His radio. "Sir." Wilson's voice changed completely. Is everything okay?" Diane's mouth opened, then closed, because Wilson hadn't even looked at her. He'd gone straight to Cameron, with deference, with respect, with recognition. Wilson's body cam captured every word, every expression. He approached Cameron directly. "Mr. Price, what's the situation here?" Cameron lowered his phone slightly. "Officer Wilson, this woman approached me approximately 13 minutes ago and accused me of stealing my vehicle. When I declined to engage with her accusations, she called 911. I've been documenting the encounter since 2:47 p.m. Wilson turned to Diane. His tone remained professional but firm. "Ma'am, this is Attorney Cameron Price." Silence. "He's a civil rights lawyer. He specializes in false police reports." Diane's phone slipped. She caught it, barely. "And ma'am?" Wilson's voice dropped lower. "He's Chief Price's son." The words landed like a physical blow. Diane staggered backward slightly. "Chief? You're the police chief's son?" Cameron addressed Wilson directly. "Officer, I'd like to file a formal complaint. False police report, harassment, racial profiling. I'd like this investigated under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act." Diane found her voice, her legal training kicking in. "Wait, you're claiming I profiled you? I never mentioned race. I asked about vehicle ownership. That's property protection, not discrimination." Wilson glanced at Cameron. For a moment, just a moment, doubt flickered. Then Cameron spoke. "Ma'am, in the past 8 months, how many white men have you stopped in this parking lot to verify vehicle ownership?" Silence. "How many white women have you called 911 on?" More silence. "I'll wait while you count." Wilson's body cam captured Diane's expression, the realization spreading across her face like spilled ink. Cameron cited Title VI, federal law, the Civil Rights Act. "Officer Wilson, this isn't an isolated incident. I've been documenting similar encounters for 11 months. 7 incidents this year alone. 7 times people called police on me for existing in public spaces." He pulled up his phone, opened a folder, showed the screen to Wilson, not to Diane. "I've documented every incident. Location, date, time, witness names when available. This is the 7th with law enforcement involvement, the 3rd at a workplace, and the 1st with 5 camera angles and a recorded 911 call." Dr. Park spoke up. "Cameron, I had no idea this was happening to you." "Most people don't, because most of these incidents don't escalate. The person realizes their mistake and walks away. But some," he glanced at Diane, "some people double down. They call the police. They file false reports. They weaponize law enforcement." Officer Wilson was reviewing his notes. Something caught his attention, a detail so small that anyone else would have missed it. "Miss Morton, you told dispatch that Mr. Price was breaking into the vehicle, but when I arrived, he was standing outside the car. Engine off. No signs of forced entry. Registration in hand. How exactly was he breaking into his own vehicle?" Diane stammered. I meant he looked suspicious, like he might be." "You changed your story. The 911 recording will show you said breaking into. That's a specific criminal accusation, not a concern, not a question, an accusation of a crime in progress. That tiny word choice. Breaking into versus suspicious around. That single phrase would become the cornerstone of the false report charge. Because Diane hadn't called to verify ownership. She'd called to report a crime that never happened. A crime she'd invented based on nothing but the color of Cameron's skin. Cameron had been documenting racial profiling incidents for 11 months. Diane Morton had just given him his strongest case yet. But what she didn't know What she was about to discover was that she wasn't having one bad day. She'd been having bad days for 12 months, and the hospital had been documenting every single one of them. At 3:11 p.m., a black SUV pulled into the parking lot. Hospital CEO Dr. Angela Rivera stepped out. She'd been in a board meeting when security called. When they said racial profiling incident in executive parking, she'd ended the meeting immediately. Because this wasn't the first time she'd heard Diane Morton's name in that context. Dr. Rivera approached with controlled fury, the kind that comes from watching your institution's reputation crumble in real time. "Miss Morton, my office, now." "Dr. Rivera, I can explain. Explain to me how you racially profiled a registered hospital volunteer in front of multiple staff members, on camera, after calling 911 to report a crime that never happened." Diane's mouth opened. No sound came out. Dr. Rivera turned to Cameron. "Mr. Price, I cannot express how deeply sorry I am. This doesn't represent the values of this institution." Cameron interrupted politely. "Dr. Rivera, I understand this isn't institutional policy, but I'll need access to Ms. Morton's employment file. Specifically, any complaints or incidents related to interactions with staff or volunteers of color. This may be part of a pattern." Dr. Rivera's expression shifted. She knew what was in that file. "Mr. Price, I'll have HR pull that information immediately. Though I should inform you, Ms. Morton is the HR director. Then I'll need an independent audit." "That won't be necessary." "Victor," she turned to the security director, "pull Miss Morton's security complaints. Last 12 months, every incident she initiated." Victor's tablet screen glowed. His face changed as he scrolled. 16 complaints, ma'am. Outcome, 0 actual threats. Demographics, Victor looked up, met Dr. Rivera's eyes. 15 involved people of color. The parking lot went dead silent. Diane's face drained white. I was protecting." "You were profiling," Dr. Rivera said, "for 12 months, and we have records." Cameron's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. The prosecutor in him recognizing a pattern case when he saw one. "Ms. Morton, you filed 15 false security complaints against Black or Latino staff members in 12 months. That's not bias, that's systematic harassment. And now you've graduated to filing a false police report, which is a criminal offense in this state." Diane's voice came out as a whisper. "I never meant, I thought I was protecting." "My car?" Cameron's voice cut through, still calm, but harder now. "You thought you were protecting my car from me?" He stepped forward, just one step, but it silenced everyone. "I'm a civil rights attorney. I make $180,000 a year. I own that Mercedes. I own a condo downtown. I have a law degree from Georgetown and a doctorate from Stanford, and none of that matters to you. None of it. Because when you looked at me, you saw a threat. You saw a criminal. You saw everything except what I actually am." His voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. "I could be a doctor, a CEO, the President of the United States, and you'd still call 911 on me for standing in a parking lot." Diane's knees buckled slightly. Dr. Rivera steadied her. "That," Cameron said quietly, "is why I document everything." At 3:17 p.m., a personal vehicle pulled into the parking lot. Not a squad car, a civilian sedan. Police Chief Robert Price stepped out, still in uniform. When he saw his son standing there, phone up, surrounded by officers, his face did something Cameron had only seen twice before. It broke. "How many times?" Chief Price asked quietly. "This year? 7. "And how many did you tell me about?" "None." Diane watched this exchange, watched a police chief, the police chief, fighting to keep his composure, watched him pull his son aside, heard him whisper, "You shouldn't have to live like this." And for the first time since this started, Diane understood. This wasn't a bad day for Cameron Price. This was Tuesday. Officer Wilson cleared his throat. "Ms. Morton, I'm going to need you to come to the station to give a formal statement. Mr. Price is filing a complaint for false report. Based on the evidence present, I'm obligated to forward this to the district attorney." "Criminal charges?" Diane's voice cracked. "Over a mistake?" 16 incidents isn't a mistake, Cameron said. "It's a pattern, and patterns show intent." What Diane didn't know, what she wouldn't discover until her phone started vibrating uncontrollably 30 minutes later, was that Dr. Park's video had already been posted to Twitter. HR Director racially profiles volunteer attorney in hospital parking lot. Watch what happens when police arrive. Riverside Medical racial profiling. By 3:45 p.m., the tweet had 52,000 views. By 5 p.m., local news had picked it up. By 7 p.m., it was trending nationally. Diane Morton's face, her voice on that 911 call, her badge clearly visible, all captured in 4K resolution and shared across every platform. Her career was ending in real time. At 4:47 p.m., exactly 2 hours after the confrontation began, Diane sat in Dr. Rivera's office. Her hands shook as she signed termination papers. Effective immediately, your employment with Riverside Medical Center is terminated for violation of workplace conduct policies, specifically discriminatory behavior and harassment of staff and volunteers. You're firing me? I've worked here for 8 years. You've harassed 15 employees and volunteers in 12 months. Mr. Price's case forced us to audit your complaint history. Every single security call you made was against a person of color. Every single one. Dr. Rivera slid the papers across the desk. That's not bias. That's a liability this hospital cannot afford. Diane's severance package, 2 weeks, no recommendation letter, no mention of cause on official records. In exchange, she wouldn't sue for wrongful termination. She signed. What choice did she have? May 18th, 2 days after the incident. District Attorney Rebecca Chen reviewed the case file. 911 recording. 5 videos from different angles, police body cam, witness statements from hospital staff, and Cameron Price's meticulously documented 11-month history of similar incidents. File the charges, she told her assistant. False report. Misdemeanor. Let's send a message that weaponizing 911 against innocent people has consequences. The charges were filed. Diane Morton was formally accused of filing a false police report. Maximum penalty, $2,500 fine and 6 months in jail. But Cameron wasn't done. May 22nd, he filed a civil lawsuit. Defendant, Diane Morton. Charges, defamation, emotional distress, civil rights violations under Title VI. Damages sought, $500,000, $500,000. Diane's attorney stared at the filing. For a parking lot argument, for a pattern of racial harassment, Cameron corrected. For weaponizing law enforcement, for 11 months of documented trauma. This isn't about money, it's about accountability. Riverside Medical Center became ground zero for a community conversation about implicit bias. The hospital's response was immediate. Mandatory bias training for all staff, no exceptions. Anonymous reporting system for discrimination incidents. Security protocol reforms, no more calls without supervisor approval. External audit of all HR practices. But the real impact happened in emergency rooms across the state. Nurses started wearing "We See You" badges. Hospitals implemented right to dignity policies. Medical schools added racial profiling awareness to their ethics training. One parking lot confrontation had exposed a systemic problem, and Cameron Price's silence, his strategic, documented silence, had forced an entire healthcare system to confront what they'd been ignoring for years. The story went national. CNN, MSNBC, local news in 47 states. Attorney uses silence as weapon against racial profiling. Cameron gave one interview. Just one. When asked why he stayed silent, his answer was simple. Because anything I said would have been used to justify her suspicions. Silence forces people to show exactly who they are, and Diane Morton showed everyone. September 14th, 4 months after the incident, Diane Morton stood before Judge Maria Rodriguez in municipal court, pleading guilty to filing a false police report. Ms. Morton, do you understand that making a false report to law enforcement is a serious crime, that it wastes resources, endangers innocent people, and undermines public safety? Yes, Your Honor. Your plea agreement includes 90 days suspended sentence, $2,500 fine, 200 hours of community service, and mandatory bias training. Do you accept these terms? Yes, Your Honor. The criminal case was closed, but the civil lawsuit was still pending. November 3rd, settlement conference. Diane sat across from Cameron for the first time since the parking lot. Her lawyer had advised her not to look at him. She looked anyway. I want to apologize, she said. Save it for the judge, her attorney whispered. But Cameron held up his hand. Let her talk. Diane took a breath. I destroyed your day, your peace, your sense of safety in a place you volunteered to help people. I did that because of assumptions I didn't even know I had, and I'm sorry. Cameron nodded slowly. Do you know why I'm asking for $150,000? Diane shook her head. because that's what it costs to make sure this never happens again. Not the money, the message. Every hospital administrator, every security guard, every HR director who hears about this case will think twice. That's worth $150,000. He stood, extended his hand. I accept your apology, Miss Morton, but the settlement stands because the next person who looks like me deserves better than an apology after the fact. Diane signed the papers with shaking hands. Her lawyer had laid out the math. Legal fees to fight the case, $80,000 minimum. Chances of winning, 5%. And if she lost in court, the damages would triple. Diane had one choice, and it would cost her everything she'd saved for 20 years. Within 6 months, the impact rippled outward. 18 hospitals across the state implemented new security protocols. 42 medical centers added bias training to their mandatory education. 7 healthcare systems created independent bias reporting hotlines. Cameron's case became training material. The video, all 5 angles, edited together with timestamps, was used in workshops across the country. This is what profiling looks like, a case study. The tiny overlooked detail that Officer Wilson had caught, breaking into versus suspicious around, became a teaching point in law enforcement training. Words matter. Specificity matters. False accusations have consequences. But the most surprising change? Diane Morton herself. 18 months after the incident, Diane gave an interview to a local paper. I destroyed my career because I couldn't see my own bias. I was so convinced I was protecting property, protecting safety, that I never questioned why I only felt the need to protect it from black and brown people. I cost myself $150,000, my reputation, and my peace of mind. But the real cost? I traumatized someone who was just trying to volunteer, who was making our community better. And I did it because his skin color triggered assumptions I didn't even know I had. She completed her community service at a homeless outreach center, the same center where Cameron taught his legal literacy classes. They never worked the same shifts, but the director said Diane showed up every week, did the work, listened when people shared their stories of being profiled, harassed, assumed guilty. I don't know if I've changed, she said in that interview, but I know I destroyed someone's peace over my own ignorance, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make sure other people don't make the same mistake. Today, Cameron Price runs a nonprofit, the Silent Evidence Project. 7 cases documented, 5 won, $780,000 in settlements. Every penny funds free legal representation for people who face what he faced. Last year, they handled 247 cases. 12 went to trial. All 12 won. Because Cameron taught people the power of silence, the power of documentation, the power of knowing your rights when someone assumes you have none. 3 years later, Diane Morton works at a youth legal education center. She teaches teenagers what happens when adults make assumptions, shows them the video from that parking lot, tells them, "This was me. I destroyed someone's peace because I couldn't see my own bias." Cameron spoke at the same center last month. Different room, different day. They've never spoken since the settlement. But they're both teaching the same lesson. Document everything. Know your rights. And sometimes, silence is the loudest answer you can give. 2 people. 1 parking lot. 1 moment that changed a system. Hospital staff across the state now carry phones reflexively. Security guards wear body cams. Witnesses pull out cameras when they see confrontations. The power of documentation has become community knowledge, and that knowledge is saving lives. But here's the question that haunts Cameron's work. How many incidents happen every day that aren't documented? How many people face Diane Morton's assumptions without Cameron Price's training? How many false accusations never get challenged because the victim doesn't know their rights? Last month, a 17-year-old named Marcus called the Silent Evidence Project. He'd been stopped by security at a mall, accused of shoplifting. He hadn't stolen anything, but he'd recorded the entire encounter on his phone. "I remembered your story," Marcus said. "I stayed quiet. I filmed everything. And when mall security called the police, I showed them the video. They apologized. The security guard got suspended." Cameron smiled. "You did everything right. You knew your rights. You stayed calm. You documented. That's power." "I learned it from you," Marcus said. "That's the real legacy of that parking lot confrontation. Not the money, not the termination, Not even the policy changes. It's the knowledge that spread like wildfire through communities that had been profiled for generations. When you have the law on your side, you don't need to raise your voice. Cameron Price knew something Diane Morton had to learn the hard way. Silence, when strategic, is the most powerful weapon in the arsenal of justice. Because when you're innocent, when you're right, when you have documentation and witnesses and time on your side, you don't need to argue, you just need to record, and let the evidence speak for itself. If this story showed you why documentation matters, hit that subscribe button now. We cover real cases where knowledge became power, where ordinary people used the law to fight back against injustice, where silence spoke louder than any argument. Next video, the teacher who secretly recorded her principal's racist remarks for 3 months. What happened when she played the tape in court will shock you. Hit that notification bell. These stories need to be told, because the next Cameron Price might be you. And when that moment comes, you'll need to know exactly what to do. Stay quiet, stay recording, and let the system prove itself, one documented incident at a time.